almost entirely dependent on foreign resources to supply its economy. To achieve Japan's expansionist policies, IJN had to secure and protect distant sources of raw material, especially Southeast Asian oil and raw materials, controlled by foreign countries, Britain, France, and the Netherlands. To achieve this goal, she had to build large warships capable of long-range assault. In the years before World War II, the IJN began to structure itself specifically to fight the United States. A long stretch of militaristic expansion and the start of the Second Sino-Japanese War in 1937 had exacerbated tensions with the United States, which was seen as a rival of Japan. This was in conflict with Japan's doctrine of decisive battle, Kantai-Kessen, which did not require long-range, 97, in which IJN would allow the U.S. to sail across the Pacific, using submarines to damage it, then engage the U.S. Navy in a decisive battle area near Japan after inflicting such attrition. 98. This is also in keeping with the theory of Alfred T. Mahan, to which every major navy subscribed before World War II, in which wars would be decided by engagements between opposing surface fleets. 99. Asthay had been for over 300 years. Following the dictates of Sat, who doubtless was influenced by Mahan. 100. It was the basis for Japan's demand for a 70% ratio, 10:10:7, at the Washington Naval Conference, which would give Japan superiority in the decisive battle area, and the US insistence on a 60% ratio, which meant parity. 101. Japan, unlike other navies, clung to it even after it had been demonstrated to be obsolete. It was also in conflict with her past experience. Japan's numerical and industrial inferiority led her to seek technical superiority, fewer, but faster, more powerful ships, qualitative superiority, better training, and aggressive tactics, daring and speedy attacks overwhelming the enemy, a recipe for success in her previous conflicts, but failed to take account of any of these traits. Her opponents in any future Pacific War would not face the political and geographical constraints of her previous wars, nor did she allow for losses in ships' armed crews. 102. During the pre-war years, two schools of thought battled over whether the Navy should be organized around powerful battleships, ultimately able to defeat American ones in Japanese waters, or aircraft carriers. Neither really prevailed, and both types were developed. The result was that neither ended up with overwhelming strength over its American adversary. A consistent weakness of Japanese warship development was the tendency to incorporate too much armament, and too much engine power, relative to ship size, a side effect of the Washington Treaty limitations on overall tonnage, leading to shortcomings in stability, protection and structural strength. 103. Circle plans. The battleships Yamashio and Fuse and the battlecruiser Haruna, Tokyo Bay, 1930. In response to the London Treaty of 1930, the Japanese started a series of naval construction programs for Hoju Kikaku, naval replenishment, or construction, plans, known unofficially as the Kikaku, circle plans. Between 1930 and the outbreak of the Second World War there were 4 of these circle plans which were drawn up in 1931, 1934, 1937, and 1939. 104. The Circle 1 was plan approved in 1931, provided for the construction of 39 ships to be laid down between 1931 and 1934. Centering on 4 of the new Megami-class cruisers, 105, and expansion of the Naval Air Service to 14 air groups. However, plans for a second circular plan were delayed by the Tomozoyu capsizing and heavy typhoon damage to the 4th Fleet, when it was revealed that the basic designs of many Japanese warships were flawed due to poor construction techniques and instability caused by attempting to mount too much weaponry on too small a displacement hull. 106. As a result, most of the naval budget in 1932-1933 was absorbed in modifications to rectify the issues with existing equipment. 106. In 1934, the Circle II plan was approved, covering the construction of 48 new warships including Phaeton-class cruisers and 2 carriers, SRY and Hyrie. The plan also continued the build-up in naval aircraft and authorized the creation of 8 new naval air groups. With Japan's renunciation of naval treaties in December 1934, Circle III plan was approved in 1937, its third major naval building program since 1930. 107, a 6-year effort. It called for construction of new warships that were free from the old treaty restrictions, while concentrating on qualitative superiority to compensate for Japan's quantitative deficiencies compared with the United States. While the core of Circle III was to be the construction of 2 battleships Yamato and Musashi, it also called for building the 2 Shikoku-class aircraft carrier along with 64 other warships in other categories. 107. Circle III also called for the rearming of the demilitarized battlecruiser Hyrie and the refitting of her sister ships, Kong, Haruna, and Kirishima. 107. Also funded was upgrading of the 4 Megami-class cruisers and the 2 Tone-class cruisers, which were under construction, by replacing their 6-inch main batteries with 8-inch guns. 107. In aviation, Circle III aimed at maintaining parity with American naval air power by adding 827 planes for allocation to 14 planned land-based air groups, and increasing carrier aircraft by nearly 1,000. To accommodate the new land aircraft, the plan called for several new airfields to be built or expanded. It also provided for a significant increase in the size of the Navy's production facilities for aircraft and aerial weapons. 107. In 1938, with the construction of Circle III underway, the Japanese had begun to consider preparations for the next major expansion, which was scheduled for 1940. However, with the American Second Vince Act in 1938, the Japanese accelerated the Circle IV 6-year expansion program, which was approved in September 1939. 108. Circle IV's goal was doubling Japan's naval air strength in just 5 years, delivering air superiority in East Asia and the Western Pacific. 108. It called for building of 2 Yamato-class battleship, a fleet carrier, 6 of a new class of planned escort carriers, 6 cruisers, 22 destroyers, and 25 submarines. The real emphasis, however, was on naval air power, in which the Japanese hoped to take the lead. To achieve Asian air superiority, Circle IV planned for the acquisition of 175 ship-based aircraft and nearly 1,500 land-based aircraft to be allocated to 75 new air groups. Upon completion of PI's expansion, Japan would have 874 ship-based aircraft and 3,341 aircraft in 128 land-based air groups, 65 of these being combat air groups and 63 training. Conflict in China. Type 91 aerial torpedo aboard the aircraft carrier Akagi. The China War was of great importance and value to the development of Japanese naval aviation, demonstrating how aircraft could contribute to the projection of naval power ashore. 109. The IJN had 2 primary responsibilities during it: to support amphibious operations on the Chinese coast and the strategic aerial bombardment of Chinese cities. 110. The first time any naval air arm had been given such tasks. 110. From the onset of hostilities in 1937 until forces were diverted to combat for the Pacific War in 1941. Naval aircraft played a key role in military operations on the Chinese mainland. These began with attacks on military installations largely in the Yangtze River basin along the Chinese coast by Japanese carrier aircraft. 110. Naval involvement during the conflict peaked in 1938-39 with the heavy bombardment of Chinese cities deep in the interior by land-based medium bombers, and concluded during 1941 with an attempt by both carrier-borne and land-based tactical aircraft to cut communication and transportation routes in southern China. Although the 1937-41 air offensives failed in the political and psychological aims, they did reduce the flow of strategic material to China and for a time improved the Japanese military situation in the central and southern parts of the country. 110. World War II. IJN vs USN Shipbuilding, 1937-1945, in standard tons displacement, 111. Year IJN USN 1937-1945, 000-193-550,000-000-194-245-50,000-003,200,000. To effectively combat the numerically superior American Navy, the Japanese had devoted a large amount of resources to create a force of superior quality. 112, 107, 113. Betting on the success of aggressive tactics which stemmed from the Hainan Doctrine and the concept of decisive battle. 114. Japan did not invest significantly in capabilities needed to protect its long shipping lines against enemy submarines. 115. Particularly under-investing in the vital area of anti-submarine warfare, both escort ships and escort carriers, and in specialized training and organization to support it. 116. Imperial Japan's reluctance to use its submarine fleet for commerce raiding and failure to secure its communications also hastened its defeat. The Japanese Navy all-sounder invested in intelligence and had hardly any agents active in the United States when the war started. Several Japanese naval officers credited lack of information about the U.S. Navy as another major factor in their defeat. 117. The IJN launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, killing 2,403 Americans and crippling the U.S. Pacific Fleet. 118. During the first 6 months of the Pacific War, the IJN enjoyed spectacular success inflicting heavy defeats on Allied forces. 119. Allied navies were devastated during the Japanese conquest of Southeast Asia. 120. Japanese naval aircraft were also responsible for the sinkings of HMS Prince of Wales and HMS Repulse, which was the first time that capital ships were sunk by aerial attack while underway. 121. In April 1942, the Indian Ocean raid drove the Royal Navy from Southeast Asia. 122. The Yamato-class battleships Yamato and Musashi moored in Truk Lagoon. In 1943, after these successes, the IJN now concentrated on the elimination and neutralization of strategic points from where the Allies could launch counter-offensives against Japanese conquests. 120. However, at Coral Sea the Japanese were forced to abandon their attempts to isolate Australia. 120. While the defeat in the Midway campaign saw the Japanese forced on the defensive. The campaign in the Solomon Islands, in which the Japanese lost the war of attrition, was the most decisive. The Japanese failed to commit enough forces in sufficient time. 123. During 1943 the Allies were able to reorganize their forces and American industrial strength began to turn the tide of the war. 124. American forces ultimately managed to gain the upper hand through a vastly greater industrial output and a modernization of its air and naval forces. 125. In 1943, the Japanese also turned their attention to the defensive perimeters of their previous conquests. 4